I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 6, Episode 13 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. It's supposed to come out on October 2nd, 2023. And today, we're drinking a year-old beer. It's actually the Dark Side of the Pumpkin that I made last year, and, it's 7.5% ABV. I got a kit from Boom Chug-a-Lug, and it was a pumpkin beer kit. And last year, we talked about this beer. But I had some left over because I made a lot of beer last year. I mean, I made so much beer. I've been giving it away all year, just giving it away. And no one has been able to drink through the roughly 40 gallons of beer that I made last year with me. I think I'm down to like maybe 5 gallons left.
Okay, that's not
But
too
it's
bad.
still a year later. That's a lot. Okay, so I'm babbling on. Tell me what you think about the beer.
It's pretty good. I'll say, without knowing it's a pumpkin beer, I think it's mellowed so much it'd be a little hard to place it as a pumpkin beer. But it's very, very smooth, good mouthfeel, good level of carbonation that it's held up for that year. I mean, I think if I got served this in a bar, I'd be very happy with it. But all I'd be able to tell you about is like, yeah, it's a good dark beer. You know?
So, it's a lager. It's not a stout or a porter. So it's, on that dark side, but not as dark. I think one of the things that I don't love about it is the head goes away like really fast.
That's true. It does.
The other thing, and this was my brewing, like me learning more about brewing. Like some of my oatmeal stouts and things like that, they retain a frothier head because I had better temperature control and things like that with the protein chains. That was a statement. Like I ran two sentences together. I had better temperature control and things like that, and were able to retain more of the protein chains. Is what I was saying. But the carbonation level is really good, especially for a year-old beer. It was very pumpkin forward when we first had it last year, but it's always been a bit more of a like kind of mellow beer. It wasn't like real heavy. I would have to go back to the episode and hear exactly what we said. This is just what I remember about it. What I can say is I know it's a pumpkin beer. I can pick out the pumpkin flavor, but it's just kind of like a saison that has like a melon flavor to it or something like that.
Yeah,
in the flavor profile, not necessarily like the other things.
It's got a little bit of that sweet earthiness that you can really feel at the very end. And you can recognize it's pumpkin if you know it's a pumpkin beer.
Right.
But like if you don't know that's what it is, it's easy to be like, man, this is good.
Yeah.
I wonder what this is.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a flavor there. It's more than just, the malt and the hops. But it'd be hard to place it. But I mean, in all honesty, like that sounds like a negative. It's really not.
Yeah.
Like I liked it when it was really pumpkin forward. That had some good taste to it, if I'm remembering correctly. But also just like this is such a sippable beer.
Yeah.
Like you could have this with any meal. It'd pair almost perfectly with everything. Even some like delicate stuff. Like you can do fish as long as it's fried. I'm not sure like a grilled fish would be quite as good with it. But definitely like a fish and chips or something like this would fit so well.
Oh yeah.
Like so comfy.
Something like a breaded fish or like a breaded chicken meal would go really
like some
good.
fried shrimp or something like that would be so good.
Yeah, this would be great. Or like something I've done with is I've cooked brats in it, like chicken brats or something like that. It takes on like that kind of melony flavor, and it's got an earthiness to it, like you said. It's really nice, and especially with like it having like over 6% ABV. It's not the highest ABV beer, or anything like that, but it's. Like for beers, anything when you get over 6%, they generally tend to have like some sort of wonkiness there, where they can start picking up those extra bitter flavors or something like that, and that works really well for stouts. That's why stouts are generally over 6%, right? But for like something like this, it's a little bit more delicate in flavor. Not too bad.
Yeah,
I'm pretty proud. I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. I mean, not that I came up with the recipe; it was a kit, but still.
But still, you brewed it well.
Yeah. So if it's available and you like melon beers and you're listening to this podcast in 2023, check out like either the Amazon listings for Boom Chug-a-Lug or go to their website and just order it. Especially if in the U.S., it's easy to get. It comes within a couple of weeks. It's always fresh and it's pretty darn good stuff. So let's talk about what it was like for me to go to LTX. So right after LTX, there was a whole bunch of drama about stuff. I'm not going to get into all that.
Mm.
I kind of just backed off from like, being involved with like YouTube creator stuff, watching that or like funding anything or anything like that until I figured out what was going on with that. It doesn't seem like there was anything that was necessarily unethical. There's still some questions I have about like other things. Not talking about that, But when it comes down to just like, what was the experience like to travel to Canada? What was the experience like to go? I've been to other professional trade shows. What was that kind of like? So I let you know that I was going to bring up this topic. I can kind of just run through it, but I thought maybe you'd have some questions or like curious like thoughts or something like that, especially since you've been to Cisco Live and stuff like that at this point.
Yeah, I was actually going to get to that. Like compared to what we would generally call like a trade conference, right? So like the ones generally put on by fairly large companies. Not that Linus Tech Tips and all that are not, they make money.
Yeah.
But no one would say, hey, man, LTX, that's going to be crazy. They're putting in $1 bajillion into it. Like, how is that just from the shock and awe of, like, you show up and the stuff?
Yeah, so coming from something like a self, it's definitely bigger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, like, a self that's more like a guided pace. Like, here's a couple rooms
right.
to do your own thing. And, like, on the other end for these big trade shows, like a Cisco Live, it's like, here's everything in the world.
Right.
I've got trucks on the show floor to show off, like, Ford automation and stuff like that. Like, on that spectrum, where did LTX sit?
So, I would say, like, if Cisco Live was a 10 and Self was a 1, right? It's a solid, like, 6.
Okay.
And the reason I say it's a 6 and not like a 4 or 5, it's really small compared to like a Cisco Live or something like that. But they have a lot of stuff crammed into it. It's probably about 1 day's worth of stuff if you're not doing like crazy activities or buying tons of merch or something like that, because there are a lot of people there, right? One of the other things, they had like whole sections that were like the whale thing. So they made these jokes about people because a whale in like video game terminology is someone who, for anybody that doesn't know, is someone who spends a lot of money on like a free-to-play game or something like that, right? Or maybe they buy a non-free-to-play game, like say like a World of Warcraft, but they buy all the merch and everything that has to do with it. And they tend to buy like, really expensive stuff, right? So they had a whole package that was like $11,000 to go. Yeah. And they had a whole section that was just for these people to go and play video games together. And then like race RC cars and like kind of be segmented off. And they got their own merch and everything like that. And I think it was like a joke that was kind of taken seriously. Like, is the way it kind of felt like, yeah, okay, we'll give you guys this stuff. You can feel like you're better than the plebs. But you don't really get anything other than the ability to like play some video games. Yeah. You didn't really like get anything else. Well, you did get a gaming computer out of it. They like actually gave you like a $6,000 or $7,000 gaming computer.
Oh wow, okay.
And I think your hotel room was paid for too.
But yeah, considering you're not really getting anything else other than like a little VIP lounge, that makes sense. It's going to be $11,000, but we'll build you something in it. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a little VIP lounge. It was a pretty significant space that everyone else could see you enjoying yourself in. So like it was, you see
it's
what
like
I'm
an aquarium.
saying? Yeah, exactly. But it overall, the experience was kind of like, you go in, you go through security because they did have like a little bit of security to make sure you weren't bringing in something like a knife or a gun or something. You go and you check in. The check-in was pretty smooth. I just walked up and was like, hey, this is my name. I bought a ticket. Give me my stuff. I've got some pictures of me like standing by like this big like thing that looks like a racetrack thing. And then everything else was like live shows and stuff like that. It kind of reminded me of like the Renaissance Fair in a lot of ways. Okay. Except it was about tech. But this is where the negative side starts coming in for me. There's a lot of people, a lot of long lines. I got to try some things like the ROG Ally. I got to play some classic video games. I think that was my favorite part of it. Like I went in the classic video game section and I was like, oh, they got CRTs. They got a Sony Trinitron. Awesome stuff. But I'm sitting there and I'm going through and I'm really enjoying myself. But it just kind of felt like an advertisement in a lot of ways for consumer electronics.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was that balance between like they're doing talks and things that are like educational versus the like, here's the promotional, this company came in to like try and get you to buy their product?
I would say it was probably about 80% the other like promotional thing, and
Okay.
about 10% you get to participate in like the WAN show or one of the other live filmings of
Oh,
something,
okay,
some
okay.
sort of like roast, something like that. There was educational stuff there, like build your own keyboard, test out keyboards, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it wasn't just all one way or the other,
Yeah.
but it was like it was a fun time. It was definitely creator focused though. Like, and when I say creator focused, I don't mean like, all right, so there's artists and then there's creators.
Hmm.
And artists are people in my mind, and there's some debate about this, you know, within the creative community. Artists are people who do things that are maybe transformative, um, and creators are people who take something that exists and then do something that is more interesting, not as transformative. So, like, what I mean by that
Hmm.
is like, if I was to take a photograph and then I was to cut it up and I was to rearrange it and I created an abstract out of that photograph, I have done something transformative with the original piece that was there. So
Yeah.
I did like something artistic with it. Where a creator, while they may have things where they use like really great lighting, they do things like that, their change that they make doesn't actually change the information or anything else like that they're
Hmm.
doing. They are doing something creative, but it's generally like I'm telling you about a product or I'm informing you about something or I'm making something. Now there are some places where you blur the lines, like someone may be drawing a cartoon of them, telling stories from their childhood, like Bruce Do Films does, or something
Yeah.
like that. So that could be kind of, it's like okay, so that kind of becomes like a little bit more art there, less creator-y kind of stuff, even though they would still be classified as a creator because of the platform and the way that they do it, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I'm saying all that to explain that it is a creator type situation there. So and everything's focused on that. So you're meeting the creators, you're getting in lines, long lines to go get some merchandise that has the
Hmm.
creator's name on it. Now I will say this: I got some swag out of that, and I got like a hoodie and stuff like that. Might be my favorite hoodie ever. They
Okay.
had good quality stuff, like the pins and stickers and all that other stuff.
Hmm.
Cool, but at the same time,
Okay. Yeah. It's starting to sound to me like it's a lot like something like a Comic Con, but for tech.
yeah, sort of, but smaller, much smaller.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Comic Con
Yeah.
and
That's
like
huge.
yeah, it's
Or like
huge.
the one we have here in North Carolina, Galaxy Con.
Yeah,
You know.
Galaxy Con's still bigger
Okay.
than this. It's a little. It's I mean I would say maybe 20% bigger. It's just a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, that does sound like a good time. I mean, it's almost got me a little interested in the the whale package. Not for the VIP room, but you get like a $6,000 computer built by some experts,
Yeah.
and that's like I would never. I see. I would never sit down and buy a $6,000 computer. But in my mind, it's like, but this would be a vacation. I would spend $10,000 on a vacation.
Now,
You know.
getting to go to Canada and get put up, and so specifically Vancouver,
Hmm.
super expensive city, super beautiful place. I mean, you've seen the pictures,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah. It was
Just
gorgeous.
gorgeous. So I would suggest if you were wanting to do that, we get a group of people together that are interested in doing it, so that
Hmm.
like the wives don't have to go and like keep us company
Yeah,
because you know
yeah.
how socially awkward we are.
Hmm. I
you
feel
know,
you.
so we go, we have fun for a day there, maybe two because it's like a 2-day event,
Hmm.
and then ancillary around it, we have like a actual vacation that we do where we're like this is like a tacked on thing,
Yeah.
because that's what we did, and it was awesome being up there in Vancouver. Like there was a firework competition that happened, and since we were on the other side of the bay, we just got to watch it.
Okay. Yeah,
We
yeah.
didn't have to fight with people to like go and be near it. It's like the world's largest fireworks competition. They had people from all over the world that were
Hmm.
coming there to do fireworks. Um, the city's super expensive. Staying there is kind of expensive, but there's all sorts of really cool stuff like the gardens that we saw and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, going up to the mountains is less than an hour trip to get up into like a really nice place up in the mountains. It's a cool trip.
Yeah. Okay. I can see it.
So I mean, if you were thinking about like doing something like that, like get together with like a couple of people that are like your tech friends, get them to take them and their families up with you, and then you've got like this awesome kind of situation going on.
Yeah, I can see it 100%.
All right, so I've talked all about that. Is there anything else that you had questions about LTX or felt like might be interesting to talk about?
I'm thinking real hard. So, okay, there were some like participating in the show things where they're like, if you were a big fan of Linus, did they do like panels and stuff that you could attend?
Yeah.
Okay,
they had
good too.
like you could also go and meet the people that were there. So they had them walking around, and so you could like talk to the hosts and stuff like that, or you could set up a slot to go like get your picture taken and have them sign something and ask them a question. And then they also had like question and answer like big panels that they would do and stuff.
Okay, cool.
I mean, for the money I paid for $35, it was well worth it.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And I got a T-shirt.
That's not bad at all.
I got a T-shirt. I got like all sorts of other things. I think I ended up spending $70 to get a T-shirt and sticker book and like some other swag. I got like a lanyard and stuff like that.
Okay.
I don't really care about like the swag as much. It was fine. It's good quality swag, but the T-shirt's nice. Yeah, like I know that's the only thing you would care about out of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Would it be one I could wear in public? That's what I found myself hitting. Because I don't like to wear my Cisco merch in public.
Yeah.
And it's like I've got all these now nice like Cisco shirts and bags and stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. I don't want to leave the house with that. So I've got this, and I've got like my Rick and Morty shirt, and it's like, that's not also the best thing to wear out.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean.
That's what I like about my self shirts is like they're confusing. People don't know what they are. But like it's not gonna offend anybody. I'm not gonna like. Someone's gonna be like, "Oh, Linux, huh? You're wearing a Linux shirt."
It's like the shirt from this year. I got two of them. It's a tie-dye shirt that just has LTX as like a logo.
Okay,
it's really like pretty.
Simple. Yeah, low profile, nice and easy. Gotcha.
And they feel like great. They're some of the best feeling T-shirts I've had ever. They're better than the ones from Self, like as far as feel goes.
There you go. Those are normally not bad. I mean, those are pretty average T-shirts.
Oh, okay. The ones from Self are good. They're like if we had like a E to S tier ranking system, right?
Okay.
The ones from Self would be like B or A. These are like S tier.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Baldur's Gate 3. I've been kind of dying to talk to you about this on the podcast. I know that there's probably a whole bunch of people that listen to this podcast, and you know who you are if you're listening to the podcast right now, that have already talked to us about Baldur's Gate 3. But, okay, so the video game is awesome. No spoilers. Love the characters they put in it. It feels like a whole bunch of my friends got together and they created characters and we're sitting around, you know, like it's like our Thursday night gaming night group.
Yeah.
You know, I could totally see one particular person, you know, that starts with an L, his first name, sitting there playing Asterion, and I could see another person playing someone like Karlach or something like that. You know, like I'm like, okay, these are their characters, right? And because of that, you know, I kind of like sit there and think I probably don't need to describe the video game aspect of it, but the D&D game aspect of it, I think, is something that nobody's really talking about. They just kind of say, oh, this is a fantastic homage to D&D. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on Baldur's Gate 3 being the best? Like if we were to play a campaign, like just pull out the, you know, thing, lay it out, you had these as some pre-made characters. What do you think about it being like possibly one of the best ways to play like D&D, like actually like play D&D?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I think it's fairly phenomenal at that. There are a couple things it shies away from because it does have some constraints to the video games, you know, illusions being one of them and some things like that that are a little sparse. But I mean, overall, it's very faithful to the system. It improves on the system in a lot of places. Really makes some like different classes, especially different subtypes, like subclasses, really stick out.
Yeah.
Like Thief is a little underwhelming in 5e. It's not bad by any means, but it's certainly not anywhere close to the best subtype or subclass for Rogue. It's does such a good job of like that feeling different. It's like your assassin's always so like, hey, if you can get off a sneaky attack, you do more damage because you're an assassin.
Right.
You're an arcane trickster. Well, you can now use magic as well, and the thief normally can't do that. So that's boom, something new. In 5e, a thief kind of gets better at climbing.
Yep.
That's sometimes useful depending on the campaign. You know, you get an extra object interaction. Well, that can again maybe be useful depending on the campaign. But in Baldur's Gate, you just get an extra bonus attack. And all the things the rogues can already do extra with their bonus actions is like, okay, boom, that's huge.
Yeah.
A thief misses out on damage, misses out on magic, but can move around faster, can hide more often, can, do dodges and other things that another one normally wouldn't be able to do as easily. That's huge. Like a nice little bonus to the action economy. I really love a lot of the changes to the spell casting. I think it's great, and frankly, I've always kind of home ruled it that prepared casters can redo their spells as long as they're not in combat. Some of them already can, like clerics can, but like wizards can't for some reason.
Right.
So like wizards being able to do that is huge. It really helps their flexibility. I love what they did to haste.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the spells they rebalanced really in the right direction. So I mean, I would almost say if they would take their system, put it in a book, and then fill in those couple gaps that you don't have with a video game, it would be a better system than just regular 5e.
Yeah, I agree. I think also the way, like some of the mechanics they put in that aren't like necessarily action economy mechanics, like the whole camp mechanic, like being able to go in and have story moments in camp. Those things are really great, and even though they're video gamey, because you get to see like the way that things are happening, when you're really looking at it, like if you have like a hat that you could draw events out of, and you had some that are like camp events, I kind of want to introduce that into some of my games now. Like, get into an argument with one of the other characters over something. Have like a moment where you catch one character doing something that maybe they don't want you to see, or like something like that, and adding those like moments to have like really good storytelling. I mean, they always have like romances and stuff in their games. The Larian does, and that's just kind of par for the course. People want that stuff, right? I don't know if I'd necessarily go all those routes, but depending on how people were playing and what they were playing and who was playing what, maybe. I mean, that is kind of built into things like Dragonlance and stuff like that. Yeah. The romance and the characters, like being together and loving each other and stuff like that. Like kind of like, I mean, even like the brotherly relationships that Karaman and Raceland have, right? Like this kind of thing. So I think for me, as opposed to a game like Icewind Dale, which was a fantastic story-driven game, the choices that you get to make and how they affect what goes into the game, like really feels like I'm playing D&D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. I really think the only failings the game has is just it does have to be bound to a fairly strict medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no real room for interpretation of actions in a video game.
Right.
You're just never going to get that. That's imagination play.
Right.
The machine's not smart enough to try and pull that off. But overall, very, very impressed with the system. I haven't gotten super far into the story and all that, but even just in the beginning, you can tell how much thought went into other actions, and they were willing to take some risks.
Right.
So I wouldn't consider this a spoiler because it happens really, you can have within like the first hour of the game. But the first like major location you go to outside of the tutorial has a particular item that's very important to the people who are there, at least most of the people who are there.
Yep.
And I'm sure somewhere in the story you can be convinced by the group of people who don't want that item to still be there to take it for them.
Right.
And that triggers some hostilities between those two groups.
Yes.
Which that's amazing story planning.
Right.
Now, again, constraints of a video game. I just said, what happens if I just take it? Just walked my character right up, picked it up. But then the hostilities still broke out between the two groups.
Right, because there was assumptions.
There was assumptions, which there shouldn't have been because they saw me pick it up. I was a paladin. I didn't even sneak.
Right.
Like I literally just walked up in my plate armor in front of all these people that had it, picked it up, and then the cutscene played of the two groups just trying to brawl it out. It's like, whoa, that got a little extreme.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, you'd arrest me. Oh, you'd attack me. I was really ready for you to attack me. I wasn't prepared for you to kill that innocent man on the other side of town.
Right.
You know? But so, there's gaps like that. But frankly, the fact that they even just thought, hey, even if you don't have a quest objective to go take it, I'll still let you go take it.
Right.
Is a positive for me.
Yeah. And there's, there's so many different avenues by which you could do things. Mm-hmm. That is one of the reasons that I love Divinity Original Sin. The first one I liked a whole lot.
Yeah.
And it was a good game. But I can see how it, like Divinity Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2, and then Baldur's Gate 3. And Original Sin 2 was like my main go-to D&D like game because it feels like you're playing D&D, right? But then this is like the perfection of that in many ways.
I mean, it really feels like, again, if you could get those rules written down, that would just be a more fun version of 5e.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, especially like, I don't want to say it's boring to be a martial character. It's not when you're playing in person because you've got all that role playing. But mechanically, it's very simple. You're a champion fighter. I'm going to attack. I'm going to attack. I'm going to attack. Even just the inclusion of like once per short rest, you have 2 or 3 special moves you can do based on your weapon. That's huge. I think they borrowed that from Pathfinder, but just putting something that simple in D&D of like, I have a weapon that can make enemies bleed, so I have a special like bleed attack that I can do once per short rest, is huge for the class just feeling more varied.
Yes, absolutely. I think mechanically and story-wise, like setting-wise, like they really improved on things.
Yeah, it feels a lot like you are playing, exactly you said before, it feels a lot like you're playing D&D with people and not here is an epic fantasy like akin to like a Lord of the Rings that I've put in this setting.
Yes, absolutely. I do love those games too, but that's more like kind of what the original Icewind Dales and Planescape Torment and stuff like that kind of felt like. Those games were great. They're some of my favorite games ever. I just feel like this is like the next step out of those things.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that it's here.
Yeah, I mean, every time I play it, I'm thinking, man, I wish I had 3 other people to play this with.
Yeah.
Not that those characters you get as companions aren't good. They are really good characters. It's just it's such a good sandbox to be like, man, if we could just get 3 people together and like we're going to play for 2 hours a week, we could just explore this whole world and, whatever we wanted.
After I get done with my playthrough, I kind of want to do that. Like me and you and some of our guys from our Thursday night game just get together and like have a fun time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know some other people that are doing that and they're having a blast.
I bet. Because just a little bit of playing with like 1 or 2 people has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Me and my wife did a little PvP battle and it was the most satisfying things in the world because I got really lucky. I was playing a paladin. I have it with set so that when you get a critical hit, you automatically also use your Divine Smite because it doubles those dice as well. And very first attack just happened to be a nat 20.
Smack. Yep.
That was it.
That was it.
We're going to fight. I went first. Bam. Done.
All right. Well, I think that's the end of what we had to say about that without getting into spoilers about the game. You sure you don't have anything else?
No, it is a fantastic game.
Yeah. If you haven't picked it up, you should. So this has been Season 6, Episode 13 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. It's coming out on October 2nd, 2023. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.